She only called me if there was an issue, and she said, I was thinking about you, and you do realize you're not Superman, right? And I said, no, what are you talking about? And she goes, Alan, you need to hire somebody. The doer says, I'll fix the problem myself. The builder says, I'll build systems and people who fix problems without me.
Right. Your biggest challenge is trying to wear every hat and not letting go, and you've got to.
Welcome to the $100 Million Mindset, the source for business owners who aspire to scale, grow, and reach their full potential. Whether you're aiming for 5 million, 10 million, or 100 million. Your hosts are Alan O'Neill, the Irish plumber, who scaled Abacus Plumbing and Cooling to over 100 million, and True Love, Todd Liles. A coach to high-performing business leaders and the owner of Service Excellence are going to help you think bigger, act smarter, and take your business to the next level.
Alan, this is our last part of our 4-part series. Now, in the first part, we talked about why people need to focus on profit and not top-line revenue. And specifically, we were dialed in to companies that are 3.5 trying to go to 5 million. And then the 2 episodes that we had in the middle were really for any company in any level. Now, today's episode, we're going to come back to that $3.5 to $5 million range. And the reason why is because it's at this range that people won't grow if they're trying to wear every dadgum hat. So in today's $100 million episode, we're going to step into this challenge where a person going from 3.5 to 5 million is just trying to wear every hat, and why that's such a trap.
Yeah, and Todd, here's the deal. At 2 million, you can white-knuckle it, right? I know because I did. I mean, I have very clear memories of going in on Saturday to clean the bathrooms. Myself and my wife painted my office. Like, we literally were not spending any money on anything that wasn't revenue producing or necessary for the business, right? So, I mean, you can run sales, dispatch installs, even answer the phone at night, which again, we did. We always answered the phone live at night. But at 3.5 to 5 million, the hat gets too heavy. The company's too complex. And here's the truth. If you don't make the shift from doer to builder, the business stalls out. Today, we're going to unpack why you can't wear every hat and which hats you need to hand off first if you want to keep growing.
Exactly, Alan. And our first segment today is why wearing every hat is a total trap. And what I want to do is I want to unpack the 2 types of owners that get stuck here. Now, I'm sure there's more than 2 types, but this is what I've seen happen a lot, especially in the space today. Type number 1 is what I'm referring to as the corporate crossover. And the corporate crossover is someone that was from another industry, and they started looking at all the things that's been going on in the heating and air conditioning space. They got really excited and said, you know what, I'm going to step in, and in my retirement or in my second career, I'm going to buy a plumbing company. I'm going to buy an air conditioning company. I'm going to buy an electrical company. So he does. And what the corporate crossover knows already is that he can't do all the things, or that she can't do all the things. But what he's not sure of are what are the things he can do and should hang on to forever versus those that he can release. And the reason for it is real simple. He's just not from the trades. So listen, if you're part of the corporate crossover tribe, we've got you covered. I'm going to tell you the 2 jobs that you should give up. This is going to be in later segments. Alan, the second type of person that we see that gets stuck here, which is more common, is the trades veteran. It's like you. They know that they're probably the absolute best at selling, answering the phone, being the office manager, being the service manager. They can do all the things, but if they still keep doing all the things and still keep controlling everything, they're not going to grow. So it's different paths, but it's the same problem.
Exactly, Todd. And at 3.5 to 5 million, the rules have changed. We talked about this. More trucks, more techs, more installs, more CSRs, more problems. It increases complexity. So if you try to keep every hat, you don't just burn out, you become the bottleneck to your business.
Absolutely, Alan.
So Todd, the big mindset shift, as we said, is moving from doer to builder. The doer says, I'll fix the problem myself. The builder says, I'll build systems and people who fix problems without me.
Right.
So take dispatch as an example. The doer jumps in, answers calls, manages the board. The builder creates the scripts, trains the CSRs, and hires an office manager so the department can run without him.
Absolutely, Alan. And I think that one of the things that builders also know to do is that they can certainly create, but they can also borrow. I
Right.
love that builders do a lot of things by spec.
Mhm.
Instead of drawing up the blueprints themselves all the way, they do things like call us up and say, "Hey, what do you got over there at Service Excellence?" And go, "Oh,
Right.
we've got that." And then they just modify. They just change the paint on the wall as opposed to totally drawing the blueprint from scratch. So it makes things a lot easier for them.
Absolutely. I mean, that's why people hire personal trainers. And it's not that they can't go to the gym and work out, but they may not be optimizing their workouts to get the best out of them, right?
Right.
And also, like sometimes knowing coach is going to show up and hold you accountable
It's huge.
makes a huge difference.
It makes an absolutely huge difference. It's a great point, Alan. So we get a coach, we start switching from just being the doer to the builder. We get a plan in place and our life starts getting better. And I think that this is where real leadership shows up. It's when a person recognizes that if they operate by a game plan, they can stop putting out fires and they can actually start developing people, which gives your team great clarity. And when they know, like you said, that you are being coached and you are coaching them and you're working on your business and you're paying attention and you're starting to go, okay, going back to that delegating concept that we talked about, I think in episode 2, we're starting to go, okay, I got to assign some of these things off. Just the sheer act of doing that and taking that bit of vulnerability is going to force you to grow and it's going to make your company get better substantially. But you got to do it right, but it will make you grow.
Absolutely, Todd. And I remember when we hired Service Excellence for the first time and having the conversation with myself, can I afford to do this? And of course, the answer was, can I afford not to do it? Because as the leader and the owner, I was doing all the training myself, and people get tired of listening to the same. I just became Charlie Brown. Now we do have an employee called Charlie Brown, but I became and yeah. That's all they were hearing. And I found when I brought in the experts, it really helped the technicians gain a new perspective on the material. And obviously we grew. We went from strength to strength to strength. So I think it's really important to, coaching and mentorship and getting help from somebody that's been there and done that. Huge,
You had
huge.
so many great people on your team so early that actually getting the opportunity to work with your people for me at that stage was a gift. But it was a gift for another reason because they were a group of professionals. And I remember you had one or two like actual knuckleheads, but for the most part, they were filled with really awesome people in the room,
Right,
and it
right.
just made my life, pretty fun actually. So thank you for that.
Yeah. And actually, we had 1 or 200 knuckleheads over the years, but no, we generally have very good people. So I'm very
Alan,
blessed.
do you remember when I came back and I said, Alan, I think we might have a challenge with this one, and you said, why, Todd? And I said, well, because he goes fishing in between service calls.
Yes, I do. Yeah, yeah. I know. It's. Yeah. That reminds me of a story. We could probably sit here for hours and tell stories, but it reminds me of a story. Colin had purchased a company and he went in and he was walking around talking to people and he asked the CSR a very simple question and he said, what do you do when the phone's not ringing? Like, what do you do between service calls? And she looked at him and said, crossword puzzles. And he was like, that's not what you're supposed to say. Like, I'm reviewing the service tickets or something, but she just said because that's what she did, crossword puzzles between the calls. So
Sometimes I
yeah,
sometimes I felt like I was there to help these guys get better,
yeah.
but occasionally I would get on a truck where I was like, oh boy, I'm basically getting this guy fired.
Well, I often said we could write a book about this place, but you'd have to put it in the fiction section because some of the stuff is hard to believe that went
Well,
on over the years.
I just got to tell you this. So we came out of that company training meeting, and when we walked out to his truck, the very first thing he did was he reached down and he whipped off his belt, like the Abacus standard belt. And then he reached under his seat and he pulled out one that had this great big ornate belt buckle. And he put that
Perfect
one
for
on.
scratching countertops.
Yes, right.
Yeah.
So he's got this massive ornate belt buckle. I'm going, well, that's okay. That's interesting. And then I got into the passenger side and I look, he had mounted a short fishing pole. Like he had built like a stand in between the front cab and the back where he had a couple little fishing poles. And I go, what is this for? He goes, well, I fish in between calls.
Yeah, well, I'm breaking out in hives here, Todd. It's all good. Yeah. No, it's yeah. I mean, I don't.
But that
think
was rare.
I don't think you can build a successful company and not have your share of stories.
No, of course
right?
not.
Yeah.
Alan, we have had our own here too.
Oh, I bet. I bet.
All right. Okay. So, Alan, let's, now that we've taken a little fun journey, hopefully you guys enjoyed that. All right, Alan. So I said that we would tell you which roles that you should replace first if you're at 3.5 million going to 5. And I'm going to give you the 2 big roles that I think should be replaced right off the bat. Number 1, if you're still acting as your office manager, time to stop.
Absolutely.
Now it's time to stop overseeing every dispatcher, every CSR, stop doing all the admin. It's time to free yourself from scheduling chaos, from all that paperwork. Get that off of you. You shouldn't be doing bookkeeping. You shouldn't be doing data entry. If you do not have an office manager in place that's handling these things, I think it's time to hire that person. Do you agree with that, Alan?
I totally agree with it, Todd. I do remember we've always had like an office manager. We had our CPA have someone come in the office once or twice a week and kind of act as office manager / bookkeeper in the very early days. And then, we brought in a controller when we were large enough for a controller. And then the service manager, Todd, another critically important role. I very clearly remember, before we had a service manager, and I was the president, the service manager, the janitor, the delivery guy. I mean, I was doing it all. And to a certain degree, I was thriving on it. That feeling of being really important to the
Absolutely.
organization. There's a lot of buzz around that.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember standing at the front desk and leaning on the front desk, feeling somewhat exhausted. And I got a phone call from my wife, which was kind of unusual during the workday. She only called me if there was an issue. And she said, I was thinking about you and you do realize you're not Superman, right? And I said, what are you talking about? And she goes, Alan, you need to hire somebody. Like you're coming home, you're on the phone till 7, 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night. You're going in the next morning, you're on the phone from the time you get in your truck. Like, you can't keep this up. You're gonna damage yourself if you. And I said, kind of, I'm there, But again, trying to protect profitability, Todd, trying to make sure that, the company got off to a great start. But I did. I ended up hiring a service manager, and we were about $3 million when I hired my first service manager, and it was a huge weight taken off my shoulders, absolute huge weight. So I strongly recommend it when you're at the point where you just feel like you're bursting at the seams, or preferably before you feel like that, get your support roles in, your service manager and your bookkeeper.
So let's talk about, like, we're both in agreement.
Mm-hmm.
Office manager that's doing bookkeeping work.
Yes.
And then a service manager that's reviewing your tickets, overseeing the day-to-day support of the service technicians. We're both totally in agreement. Let's talk about right now in our modern society with our modern cost and expenses, right?
Right.
So if we go back and say, where should a company be in terms of overhead? We know there are some golden rules of thumb, and like a larger well, I shouldn't say larger, it varies. But on the really, really, really low side, you're going to be at like 8% overhead. And then you can creep to 13%, where sort of the golden standard is somewhere around 10.
Mm-hmm.
At $3 million when you hired your first office manager and then service manager at the same time?
No. We had our service
your
manager
CPA
first.
doing
Yeah,
something.
CPA was doing the work, outsourced. We outsourced that.
Here's the essence of the question of where I'm going to. At a $3.5 million business, we go, okay, we're getting ready for that. As an owner, I've been wearing all those hats. So I'm taking a salary chances are I've still got some other people doing a few other things, at least a CSR, and probably got my wife doing the books. That's probably pretty common, right?
Mhm.
I need to hire a service manager. I need to hire an office manager. If I'm sticking to that 10% rule, we're essentially saying $300,000 at 3 million, 3.5 million. It's a little bit more, right? So we can add some money to that. But even if you go to 350, that's still not like a huge amount of money. So what are the challenges that you think that they might face when it comes to hiring a service manager? Because you don't want to hire someone that's just good for 3.5. You want someone that's going to take you to 5, maybe even beyond, but at least to 5.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what do you think you got to pay that person in, an average city?
It's very different today than it was back in for me, that was around 2006, Todd.
Mhm.
So it's almost 20 years ago. It's
Mhm.
scary to think, right? But I think now a decent service manager, you're going to pay at the very minimum $100,000.
Yeah.
I think. And there has to be some upside with regard to bonus. But here's a question I think you have to ask yourself. I think your vision of a well-run company is not being executed if you don't anticipate that bringing a service manager in is going to increase profitability.
Exactly.
You should be getting something from that service manager. And, I always felt like if I'm adding a new position to the company and it's X dollars, I want to multiply that by 5 and hope that at least that expense is not going to be more than 20% of the additional revenue that guy is going to create. So
Mhm.
if I'm paying somebody, $100,000, can he or she create $500,000 worth of value in the company? And so I just think, whether it's 100,000 or 150,000 or 200,000 or 50,000, what are they bringing to what additional value are they bringing to the company, and
Yeah.
how are they going to create more revenue and profitability for you?
If we go back to that very first episode that we did in this series where we were talking about profitability, this is where it all sort of comes together like a complete and total package. Because let's say that you've put 500,000 retained earnings, which means taxes are paid on it.
Yeah.
You've got that sitting over here in reserve. You're operating now, let's call it 20% profitability at 3.5 million. So that's nothing to sneeze at. That's $700,000 before taxes, right? And now we're going, okay, we're going to hire someone. We're going to put out $100,000 that we haven't been putting out. Let's say office manager or someone equivalent's in place. You can consolidate it into, a single position, or you can still keep outsourcing a little bit, but you're going to go 100,000. Well, on one note, you go, well, my 700 go to 600 for a period of time. But on the other note, you got 500,000 in reserves. But this is the way my brain looks at it. It's not like $100,000 deduction right off the bat.
No.
It's really just like a monthly salary. So it's minor deductions. It's $8,000 a month deducted from 500,000, which you've already got retained earnings, and not for very long. Because a year from
And
now,
you're
you're gonna grow.
assuming you're not getting any upside in
Exactly.
month one, right?
But you're going to get
You're
upside.
going to get upside. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, here's one thing I would say to the viewers and listeners, Todd, is if you are hiring somebody because you don't want to work as hard as you have been working, it's a bad decision. If you're hiring somebody because they're going to increase the efficiency of the company and the profitability of the company, it's a good decision, right? And as long as he can pay for himself or she can pay for herself. So I think, saying, you know what, I'd like to come in the office 2 days a week, so I'll hire somebody. And
Oh, yeah. That's taking
we're
your eye
we're
off
on a whole different,
Yeah.
So I think making sure, we said it in episode 1, making sure that this position is going to pay for itself and then some is the key.
I think so. I think that's exactly right. So we're both in the exact same position where we think office manager and service manager on your way to 5 million is what you need to have.
Absolutely.
Alan, when Linda came to you and said you're not Superman, you got to let some of this go, and you did.
Mhm.
What would have happened to you if you didn't?
I honestly think I'd have damaged my health, Todd, because I don't think you realize when you're in it. It's not till somebody lifts the monkey off your back that you realize the weight you've been carrying, And so I think I would have damaged my health, or I'd have damaged the company, one or the other, because I was literally at breaking point, Todd, at that time, We
Did you
were.
feel it? I mean, Linda saw it, but did you feel it?
I didn't feel it so much, Todd, because I think when you're in it, I think you learn to tolerate the stress and well, some people do. I can tolerate stress fairly well. I think I learned at least to tolerate the stress and the anxiousness and the weight of it. But I think when it's removed from you, you say to yourself,
Hmm.
how did I do that for so long?
Mm-hmm.
So I think I'd have definitely damaged myself, and we would not have grown. We would not have multiplied the way we multiplied, for sure.
Was there ever a moment when you got a little of that weight taken off of you that the exhaustion ever like hit you and you got sick and you needed a couple of days, like a cold hit you or anything like that?
No, I think for me, Todd, it was just wow. I mean, I feel so much better that I've got somebody there. And one of the things for me, Todd, is leadership is a very lonely profession when
Mm-hmm.
you're in it on your own. You've got nobody to share the day-to-day struggles with. I mean, you can go home and talk to your wife, and I did, and she was always a great support. But I think having someone else that truly understands the business, that's in it with you, that you trust, is a huge help, because you say, "Hey, this is happening. What do you think? What would you do?" And you've got some support. I think it's almost like a partnership to a certain degree. Is huge.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
I appreciate you sharing that. And I was just asking about the sick thing because that's one of the things that I've noticed with people that constantly go, 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 go is the moment they get a little bit of a break, their body goes, oh, thank God we can breathe for a moment. Good. We're going to get sick for a couple of days because I've been fighting this off, but I've been waiting.
Yeah. Yeah.
And whether it's physical sickness or emotional sickness or whatever, but that also just speaks to your resilience. Like even your retirement. Your retirement wasn't because you were worn out. Your retirement was because I want to spend time with my grandkids.
Yeah. I mean, Todd, I've been lucky to build some wealth, so I felt like, hey, I want to enjoy the fruits of my labor. And Linda's been sitting around for me, waiting for me to come home from work since I was an apprentice. Like, I mean, so I think
Yeah.
it was time to, enjoy the fruits of my labor.
So I think for me, that's the big takeaway, specifically from this segment where we're talking about what happens if you don't let go. And it's one of those life things. It's like it's at some point, especially if we're super career driven, we have to make a decision that we're going to start living another type of life.
Hmm.
And I think many people can do it in many different ways. I think it's very unique personal journey. And I mean, I may change my mind. We've talked about this as I continue to get older. Maybe when I'm 60, 65, I might feel different about it. But I sort of feel that calling now. But the way I feel the calling now is like I would rather have more time off while I continue to do the work I like,
Right.
as opposed to I'm just going to take a bunch of time off, down the road. But again, we're in different seasons of our life.
Absolutely. Oh, yeah.
And I suppose when we're sitting here and I'm 65, you can ask me then.
I hope I'm still
Yeah,
around to ask you that.
you'll be here, Alan. You'll be here. All right, so this is a wonderful thing, right? And what this is all boiling down to, and the reason why we've done these shows is that whether you're at the scale of going from 10 to 20 or whether you're at today's scale where we're talking about going from 3.5 million to 5 million, what we know is that you have challenges. And at 3.5 million going to 5, your biggest challenge is trying to wear every hat and not letting go. And you've got to. So the great place to start off there is with an office manager and then with a service manager, and then start building out all those positions that you need today so that tomorrow they'll grow into your next level. So, Alan, I think the question that the listeners got to ask themselves at this stage is, am I being a doer or am I becoming a builder?
Yeah, and this wraps up our special 4-part series, Todd, which I really enjoyed.
Mm-hmm.
And I stepped away from interviews and tackled some of the biggest issues facing we stepped away from, sorry, let me
You
start
start
this
that
again.
over.
This wraps up our special 4-part series, Todd, where we stepped away from interviews and tackled some of the biggest issues facing our audience head on. We focused on profit first, delegation without losing control, protecting culture during leadership changes, and why the owner can't wear every hat anymore.
That's right. And if you missed any of the episodes, all you have to do is just go back and watch them step by step. We'll take you through those items that Alan just shared with you. Now, next week, we're going to get back to interviewing guests in our normal format. Although, Alan, we're going to come back periodically and do a few more of these multi-part learning lessons, because here's one of the things that I found myself thinking about, which is, Alan, you have a lot to share. I have a lot to share. And while we absolutely love talking to our guests, I think occasionally it's good for us to step to center stage and teach a lesson to help that audience member with very specific details.
Absolutely, Todd. And you know, and I know, there's a lot of owners out there that I spoke about loneliness earlier. They feel like they've got a lot of problems. They don't know where to start to tackle them. And I think this is a great resource for them by listening to these podcasts. Implementation is the name of the game.
Absolutely.
Remember, we talked about failure to implement, but implementation is the name of the game. And pick an idea, whether it's hiring that service manager, building systems, getting better at delegation, and run with it, and let's see your business thrive.
Absolutely. And that's what we want for you. And if you've gotten to this point, you're thinking to yourself, I'd really love some help, all you have to do is send me an email. Send it to todd@toddliles.com. And if you want to address that to Alan, that's not a problem. Address it to Alan. I'll get it to him. And between Alan and I, we'd love to help you.
Absolutely.
Hey, thanks so much for watching the show this week. Head over to toddliles.com/mindset to get the show notes. Please make sure to like, subscribe, and follow so you never miss a new episode of the show. And if you enjoyed this episode, then share it. It really helps us get the word out. You've been watching the $100 Million Mindset with Alan O'Neill and Toad Licker Todd Liles.